Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back. This video, I'm going to be talking about how we can return custom types from methods. So it works just like returning any other type or object, but we're going to use it in a cool example where we can search a list for a specific user and return that user to the caller. So it should be pretty fun. Monday.com is your visual project management solution. This is the tool that allows you to see where every task or project stands with a single glance. With a fully customizable interface, you can create the exact workflow that you need for you and your team to get stuff done. Monday.com is available on mobile and integrates well with some of the most popular tools out there, so get your life in order by giving it a try for free. Link in the description. So far we have a bunch of code, and don't feel like you have to be exactly where I am. If you're not, that's fine. Just follow along with these principles and write out what you can. You should though have a user class with a first name, a last name, and maybe a full name property here. And then we have a particular method in here, find. And what this does is it will take a list of users and a specific user to search for, and it's static. So that's why we're passing in the user rather than using the properties directly. So going back to that method, you can see it returns an index, which is why we're using a for loop rather than a for each loop. But what I want to do is I want to make a new version of this that's actually going to return the actual object itself rather than the index of the object in the list. So one thing you might think is to make an overload with this essentially the same signature, with the only difference being that it returns a user rather than an integer. But you'll notice that you get an error. So in order for this to be a valid overload, it would have to have a difference in the parameters. So for example, you could get rid of one, but that's not going to work because we need that parameter. And we're also going to need a body for this error to go away. And of course, a return. But once we got all of those things, you can see this is valid. But having user here, that's invalid. So you could figure out a way to basically modify the parameters, or you can just create a new method with a new name and not use an overload. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say public static, and this is going to return a user. I'm going to call it get user from list. And what this is going to do is it's going to take a list of users. We'll call that users, and then it's also going to take a user object. Now you could make an overload for this as well too. Rather than taking the user object directly, you could basically take some representation of that user, such as a string full name, and then it would search by that. So similar to how we have these two versions, you could repeat the same down with this version here. But we're just going to take the user object for now, and we're going to search. So to do that, we're going to use a for each user, and then you actually have to be careful with the name here because we have this parameter called user. So I would normally use the word user here, but I'm just going to use you, and then we'll say in users. And we did overload the equals method up here, so it's going to compare the full name. So that should be pretty easy. We'll just say if u dot equals user. We're just going to return you. So to translate that into English, if the user passed in matches the particular user we're on in that iteration, then we're going to give back that user from the list. We're also going to need to have a return if this for each does not find a user, and in that situation, we could return null, for example, which is the absence of a user. Now back in our caller, let's take a look at how we might use this. Well, we have a user here, and then let's say we create another user. We'll call him something else. Call him John Curry. And then we have the user we're searching for. And we will also search for John Curry here. So we know this is going to match, but only these two are in this list we created. Both me and you are in the list, and we're searching for this one. So what we'll do is let's get rid of these right lines. We'll keep this one just modified a little bit. We'll change this from find to get user from list. Now, if it's found, what should we get? We should actually get the person's full name, because this is going to return a user. And when we use a user inside a right line, it's going to do the toString method. And taking a look at our toString method, somewhere in here, right here. toString, all it does is return the full name. All right, before we run it, I'm also gonna get rid of these console write lines here and here. We're not gonna need that for this example. So run this, and you can see we get John Curry, so it's found. Now let's go through an example where it's not found, like here, and see what we get. You can see we get nothing. So when you're using this in your code, you will need to check if the value is null. You can do that real simply, just say if, then take this expression is equal to null, then you can just do an output in this situation. Not found. Run this, and you can see we get not found. So in this situation, we are actually returning a user object. The next video, I want to talk a little bit about the details of how that works and some gotchas you need to understand, because this video is going to be the dedicated video for value types versus reference types, and it's going to come up a lot once you start getting into object-oriented programming. So check it out and be sure to subscribe.